Hello everybody, Walter here. Welcome to episode 20 of my Let's Play series for Satisfactory 1.0. In the last episode we started on an industrial scale refinement plant for the various raw materials like copper and iron, but we have yet to connect it to the actual raw materials and also provide the required water. So that will be the first thing for today, and depending on how far we can get, we might even start on further processing the ingots and so on. But with that said, it's time to jump back into the game and have a quick look where we left off last time. And here we are, right back at our aforementioned refinement facility. Now, before I get started on the raw materials, there's a little adjustment I would like to do over here. I did a little bit of fine-tuning on my plans, and that means that this thing here at the end, which is where we get the quartz crystals from, will be a little low on water. And the silica will be a little bit low on raw quartz, so to make sure everything still runs at as high of an efficiency as possible, I'm going to need the smart splitters in those two positions. And then I just need to make sure that the overflow goes to the side. And that way I make sure that first I'm using as much quartz as I can handle with the available water, and then the rest is processed over there. So, then. Let's close this off again. And now we need to make our way all the way to over there, where we're going to get a decent amount of water for all of these refineries here. And we have arrived. In the meantime, I've also written down all of the materials we are going to need to collect today, which is in the notes on the right side there. Now are the materials just needed for the refinement facility, and later are for parts that have yet to be built. Now, first things first, let's worry about the water situation, and as you can see, this amounts to 9 full Mark II pipes of water, or, if I'm not overclocking, 45 water extractors, which means the first step is just making some space here by moving this conveyor belt from the water up to this ledge here, so I can actually use all of this area here. Just like this here. Next on the agenda is planning out the placement of the water extractors. For that I have prepared a couple blueprints again, similar or, well, actually based on the harbor of the oil processor, just a little bit simpler. And let's see. How would that look like? Okay, I will have to go one step in. But I will have to, or I would like to do this a bit lower actually. Yeah, that looks like a good placement. Yep, that should work. So let's place just a handful of those so I can put down the first of many blueprints. So this is the front part. It has a pump and output as well as a power supply. And besides of that, it's just a bit of a walkway. And then let's see, how far do I want to go with this? Half a step, yep, that should work. That means I can now get rid of this part. Now if I want to put another row next to that, all I need to do is add a copy and then nudge it in position. And you can see this is a repeating pattern, and I will basically need 9 of those segments all the way to the back there. And then I will need this module here, which will contain 1 extractor each. But yeah, as I thought, there is a little bit of an issue with this blueprint here. You can see I can't place the water extractor, but if I were to remove the blueprint, I suddenly can. This is the same issue I had with the oil processor. So I'll have to first mark out where the water extractor has to go, then remove the blueprint again, and then place the extractor and then replace the blueprint. So that is what I'm going to do now, and in total I'm going to need 9 of those rows here, each 5 long. And at the end there will be a corresponding counterpart to the front part, just without the pump. And that's all of the extractors placed. Basically I just had to put down the first one in the correct spot, and then I could just put the other ones with control right next to it. Because if I have built this here correctly, I should be able to now just put down those one next to the other, if I align them properly at least, and they should also align properly with the water extractor since they have the same length or width, depending on how you look at it. So let's just place those down. And then I'm going to need the back part. Like that. And yeah, that looks pretty good. And I should have enough space for all of this. So yeah, now let's quickly connect everything. So for that we are going to need... Let's start with the pipes. Oh, and they are almost at the perfect height even. That is a nice coincidence actually. So... And then let's make sure this is all properly color coded. Then next up we have power wire connection. This one to this one. And then finally to the output. And they are all now running since this is already connected to the power grid. So that is looking pretty good. Now let's close off these parts. Then let's also replace these here since this is the outer edge. So for that we are going to need a T-junction. And over here a corner. Now for the front part, let's see. Just going to put down a pillar or two. Same in this corner over there. And then I need to figure out how I do the wall in between. Again, this only needs to be done on the outer edges since the other parts already are part of the blueprints themselves. So let's see, this is to the front and then... that is not something I would like over here. Maybe, let's see. Is in line with the other parts, so something like that maybe. Okay, that is now properly hidden. Okay, then let's see it. Let's move that a little bit towards the back. Almost done with this side, I guess. Then again to in the outer corner. Yeah, I think that looks pretty decent. So now all I need to do is copy this for the other 8 rows. And here we go. All of the water extractors are now in place and properly connected. Which means it's time to worry about the pipelines themselves. So let's quickly get over to this corner here. And then I'm going to grab a foundation. And place it right in there so I can put down my 3x3 pipeline blueprint. And that needs to be moved out a little bit. And yep, that looks pretty good already. So now I can connect that and yeah, obviously I need to change the power connection a bit. So let's see, how far can I go down without clipping? I think that's the limit. Yeah, that's the limit. And that is the wrong type of connector. Okay, that looks good. So, color coding, and yeah, now I just need to connect the other pipelines. Obviously, not with the full 3x3. I do have individual single, double, and triple pipelines, so I can put this together as needed. Of course, I should, for now at least, also connect this here to power. Obviously, this will run along the actual pipeline, but that comes once I have all of this here in place. Just like this here. Now, next up is bringing all of those 9 pipes over to the facility, and I think I'm just going to follow along the railway system here until, let's see, maybe somewhere around this spot there. And then here I'm going to split off and make my way down to this area there. And there we go. All of these pipes here are now running into the side of this foundation of the refinement facility, because I actually plan to put the distribution network right below, and yeah, I think that is actually a good spot for that, since, well, otherwise I think it's a bit of a waste just having this foundation with all of this empty space below it. So I might as well make use of some of it. Obviously, I'm going to add a couple more windows later on, but for now, let's worry about actually distributing the materials. So, first things first, I'll need a floor and maybe some walls, and I might as well start collecting the various pipes that are running all over the place to the side of this new room here, so I only really need to worry about the proper distribution and not getting all of those pipes here all over the area. So here we go, the room is now in place. The only thing missing is the piping, of course. We have in total 14 outgoing pipes, each with a little sign that tells me how much water is needed, and obviously our 9 incoming pipes. So let's get started with the piping, and the first 4 are pretty simple since they each need just 400 water. I can just connect them as they are, but the rest is going to be a little bit more interesting. So let's get started by adding a pump here, right there. Then I am going to need a fluid buffer. That's not it there. Then a valve right here. A junction in this spot. Then another valve right here. And now I just need to connect everything. Like so. Obviously this needs to be connected to the incoming pipes. For example, this one there. Now for the settings. This one here will be the 320. Then here we have the 280 that are left over. And then we also need some power wire here. And yeah, the general idea is I split off just what I need. And if this output here starts to pulse a little bit, then I have my fluid buffer to bridge that pulsing. So that is the general idea of this entire approach here. Let's also start with the color coding already a little bit. So now the next one is basically just a copy of this, but obviously grabbing the water from this pipe over there. And just like in this here. Now, since the other ones follow the very same pattern, I have already put down the correspondingly set valve, fluid buffer and the pumps. And now all that's left is connecting everything with the various junctions. Now, let's get to the third module here, which is not going to use fresh water. Instead, I'm going to recycle the overflow of these two here, which means I need a junction there and also another valve. Then I am going to connect this one directly. And this one here will have to go, let's say, over. So I go down like so, connect there, then I can get rid of this one there, connect down there, and connect this one there. Okay, that looks good. And now I need to set this valve here. And since the overflow together is not a full pipe, I only have 240 this time left over. And then I connect there. And that's the third one done. Now for the fourth one, I'll need fresh water again, but then I can once more merge the overflows for the next module, and then again I need fresh water, and so on and so on. And I'm just going to repeat this pattern more or less until I reach the very end over there. And a little bit of work later, this is now finally done. All of the water is being distributed, and some of the pumps, as you can see over there, have already filled their pipe and are backing up into the fluid buffers. I did notice that one of the pumps, this one here specifically, stopped way too early, and when I went up to check, I found that some of the modules weren't actually properly connected, which is now fixed, and yeah, now the pump is running. So with that, all of the water is being distributed, except for one water extractor worth, which is going to be needed later on, but I'm not going to bother with that with a pipeline, since I can grab that bit of water from a lake here in the vicinity, so I am not going to bother at all. What I will have to worry about now, though, are the raw materials. So iron, copper and deuterium ore, raw quartz and limestone. And where am I going to grab that from? Well, let's put down a radar tower and power that so we can see that a bit better on the map. So, on the map, if we zoom in, we can find a lot of pure nodes in this area here at the northwest. And from here I'm going to grab, of course, the copper and most likely the iron ore. And also very likely also the limestone. The SAM ore I will grab from up here. It's out of range, but I think it's on top of this little hill there. While I'm there, I might as well also connect to the output of our steel facility. Deuterium will come from down here. Coal and silver from this area. And the quartz can be found in this area here. What's left is a lot of copper, which is distributed over this entire south area here. So what I think I'm going to do is put down a highway for that. Now, up to this point I've only really used my walkways, but my highways are not meant to be close to the ground and follow the terrain. Instead they are meant to be high above the ground and just go straight lines. So let me just put down one so you can see how they look like. So this is a T-junction. So the idea is you can walk on top, and below you have the power distribution and enough space for lots and lots of conveyor belts and also pipes if you need them. But for this case here, I already have the pipes in place. I don't need to worry about them. I'll just have conveyors. Now, since this will go in straight lines, what I think I'm going to do is start over here, go over to the steel facility, and then a bit further to the SAM ore. I'm also going to split off to the bottom here, then go to the right, and then at some point to the top here, where I can find my quartz. So, a bit later, the first node on my highway is in place. So, currently it's stopping over there, but will continue in this direction, obviously. And over here, I have one pure copper node, all of the iron I need, as well as all of the limestone with those two here. I do have to upgrade some of these here to Mark 6 later on, so I have left these parts open. But with all of that said, it's now time to, well, continue in the direction of, let me get to the map, the steel facility, and then a bit beyond that, up to the SAM ore over here. And while I'm on the way, I might as well branch off towards the bottom here, where I will then go in this direction. But for now, I'm just going to place a simple T-junction here and work on this area over here. And we finally reached in the SAM ore, which took a decent amount of effort since As you can see, it's quite high above the normal levels. Yeah, as you can see, got a bit lazy with getting this here connected properly, mainly because I'm starting to get a bit of a headache. So I might want, or might have to actually stop a bit earlier than I planned. But for now, I would like to at least get in this belt all the way along down there to this spot where I have the T-junction prepared to go further to the facility. And similarly, I will continue with the belts for the steel also along this line here. They are not connected yet in this spot here. I will wait with that until I have everything else in place and actually need the steel, because for now I am producing my steel beams in this area there and I don't want them to stop coming in. So, as I said, now the next part is just getting up to around this spot there, and while I'm on the way I might as well grab the Caterium ore from somewhere over there. And here we go. Now, due to the great number of belts I will have to deal with, I decided to go down in 2 pillars. Each will handle 9 of the 18 belts, which is quite a big number. And also the main reason this took so long, just running all of those belts here all the way from back there almost took half an hour or even more than that. So yeah, it's quite tedious work. Now, what do I have planned down here? Well, I want to do something similar to what I did over with the water. Move all of the belts in there, or at least the ones that are required in this place here. Carve out a room, and then do all of the distribution inside of that room instead of outside of this foundation here. But before I actually start on that, I should make sure that I have the right number of belts. So it's time to continue in this direction here, grab more copper, coal and sulfur, and then somewhere over there some quartz. But before I do it, I'm going to take a break since it's getting a bit late and the headache is also getting worse, so I definitely need a little bit of a break. And I'm back. Still a little bit tired, but no headache anymore. And yeah, as you can see, I've already reached the first 2 copper nodes in this direction here. Both are just normal ones, so I'm merging them into one line that gets split off later on when needed. And yeah, now I need to continue to the coal and sulfur. And then it's time to make our way northwards. And that's the coal and sulfur. Now, while I was here, I also got rid of the Nobilisk production, which was in this area there, since, well, I'm not going on any extended exploration trips anymore, and I have enough in reserve, so it's no longer needed. So I got rid of it ahead of time. Now, next up on the agenda is, if I go to the map, on the north of here, this pure copper node, and likely this pure quartz node there. And done. So with that I now have all of the raw materials more or less tapped into. I just need to run the conveyors all the way back to the main base. But before I do that, there is one more resource I would like to get, and that is nitrogen. I'm going to need a lot of nitrogen actually for my high tier stuff. So I'm going to tap into the same node I already use for my power plant. I just need to overclock it a little bit more and slightly change the piping. But once that is in place, we should have basically everything we need, and then we can concentrate a bit more on actually processing all of those materials. So here we go. We now have all of the materials we are going to need either coming in from the east there or from the west. Which means the next step is just bringing all of those here down to the floor, which fortunately enough splits quite nicely because we have 9 belts worth of material that will be needed for the refinement and 9 belts worth of material for later processing steps. So I'm just going to very quickly distribute this onto those 2 pillars here. And with very quickly, I obviously meant about 1.5 hours of trying to get in this spaghetti here threaded through the available space without clipping. I did manage it, but it took a good while, as I said. So, now, next step, connecting these here to the inside and then obviously preparing the room. So it's not just an open area, but I have instead the inputs here and then these outputs here in some shape or form also inside of this room here. So here we go, all of the conveyors are now properly rewired and now all that's left is connecting these here with all of these inputs for my refinement facility. Now, for the most part, that is pretty straightforward. Basically everything that is not copper can be simply run through from one end to the other. So the limestone, the quartz, then below we have the iron, then the Mark III for the caterium. Now for the 4 belts that contain the copper, we will have to get a bit more creative. So for that I am going to need a couple smart splitters. One here, one there, another one there, one there. Then I need a couple mergers, one here, and one there. Then I'm going to grab a couple belts, Mark 4. Although technically, I think these here can actually be a Mark 3. Doesn't make too much of a difference, but why not? Let's optimize this. So, then again a Mark 3 here. Over here, this needs a Mark 4. And, yeah, it doesn't really matter much. Let's go with a Mark 4 here. And that should work. So basically the idea is, 2 of those belts here are worth 5 of these, so that is what this configuration here does, at least if I set the smart splitters. So first it feeds into those 2 and then the overflow goes into the merger. The same on this side. And then here a similar construct. And then this one here goes first to the right, left, and then straight. Okay, so that is all I need. And now let's just connect them all with the corresponding inputs. Yep, that looks good. And now for the last one, I will need to, I think, go like that, and then maybe something like that. Yeah, this looks good. And then maybe in reverse. Yeah, that looks good. Okay. Looks like we have everything connected. And, well, once I have all of the Mark 5 belts here that need to be upgraded to Mark 6, when I have it available at least, this here should then run at full capacity. And, yeah, for now, we'll just have to live with what we have, which is already a decent amount, but not full capacity, but we will get there at some point. And with that, I would say we have actually reached the end of this episode here. We finally have basically this here running. As you can see, the first few of those refineries here have started up already, and at some point pretty much all of them should at least run a little bit, if not at full capacity, as I mentioned. That will have to wait until we have all of the belts. In the next episode, we're going to worry a bit more about the actual outputs of all of this here. So likely we're going to also rewire them to go through the floor or through the side of this foundation. And we'll also have to worry a bit more about all of the resources that are not being processed yet. And as I said, this is something for the next episodes. And that brings us to the actual end of this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. Please like, share and comment. It really helps with the algorithm. Independent of that, I wish you a nice day. And well, see ya.